In this video, we'll show you how to replace the rear wheel bearing on your Subaru Baja. This is part of the drivetrain and behind the wheel. Let's get started. With the vehicle raised and supported, we can remove our wheel. We'll remove the lug nuts with a 19mm. If the wheel's stuck, you can thread one of the lug nuts about halfway back on. And I'm going to use a dead blow hammer on the back of the wheel. You want to try not to strike the rim and just strike the tire. And we can remove the wheel. Now we can remove the axle nut with a 32mm. We have two 14mm bolts holding the caliper bracket on. I'll be using a wobble extension for this. And we can do the same up top. When you go to remove the caliper from the knuckle, it's good to have something to hold it up, whether that's a hook or a securing strap. Just keep that from falling. Using a 14mm, I'm going to remove one of our slide pin bolts. Work the caliper body off. And now you'll want to hang the caliper body up and keep that from falling. And we can remove the rotor. Looking from the back side of the hub, we have four 14mm bolts that we need to remove. I'm using an extension to get in. It's a very tight space. And we'll do the same with the other three. Now I'm just going to thread these back in a little bit. Now I'm going to use an air hammer with a socket bit on each of the heads of the bolts. Once we have movement, we can go ahead and remove the bolts. In most cases, the hub is going to stick into the backing plate. We can go ahead and pull it off altogether, and I'm going to use a strap to support it up while I remove the hub from the backing plate. Now, supporting the backing plate with one hand, I'm going to use a hammer to strike the hub. You might want to have something underneath to catch this, something like a pillow or a blanket. That way you don't damage your floor. Before we can install the new wheel bearing, we need to clean up the bore where the hub is going to mount into. To do that, I'm going to use a little brake parts cleaner. And we can clean up the bore with a brush. If the rust is really bad, you can get in here with some sandpaper. With our wheel bearing mounted up in a vise, I'm going to knock the hub out using a socket and a hammer. In order to install our hub into the bearing, we need to remove this collar. To do that, I'm just going to put a cut with a cut-off wheel through it and then hit it with a punch. If you don't have a hydraulic press at home, this type of installation kit can come in handy. We just have a through bolt going through the center, a nut on one side, and I have it held in a vise right now. And we can install this on the car. Before installing our hub, I'm just going to apply some anti-seize to the mating surfaces. Don't need too much. Don't forget to remove your strap. I've put 2 bolts through the back of the knuckle here. That'll help us line up both the backing plate and the hub. We can start to get the hub lined up over the axle. Get it flat against the backing plate, and we can start to thread in the bolts. We'll go ahead and get our lower bolts started in as well. We can go ahead and snug all 4 of these up. It's good to do this in a cross pattern to bring the hub down evenly. Now we can go ahead and torque these to 38.3 foot-pounds. Now we can go ahead and install the rotor. To get the brake caliper bracket on, it's a lot easier if the rotor stays sitting against the hub. To do that, I'm just going to use an old axle nut, one of our lug nuts. You can use anything like a set of washers or a bearing for this. That'll hold the rotor on. We can get our bracket on and get our bolts started in from the backside. We can go ahead and snug these down. And we can torque these to 58 foot-pounds. When installing your brake pads, you want to make sure that your squealer bar is on the inside and faces in the way that it's going to touch the rotor when the rotor is rotating in this direction. You want it touching first. If it goes the other way, it's going to pull it away. It's not going to do its job. We can get the pads in. I like to start on one side, top or bottom, get that in, and then you can push in the other side. I'm going to apply more silicone paste to the other slide pin and start to get that in. Same as the other one, you want to pinch the boot and get all the excess air out. Now we need to compress the caliper in order to get it to fit over the pads. To do that, if you don't have a caliper compressor, an old pad and either a big set of pliers, if you have an oil filter wrench like I have here, these work great. We can get our slide pin bolt started in. And we can torque the slide pin bolts to 28.9 foot-pounds. You gotta make sure to remove the strap that you used. If you used a lug nut to hold the rotor on, remove that as well. We can get the wheel back on. And get the wheel on the hub. I'm going to install one lug nut all the way down. That'll hold our wheel on while we install the rest. Now we can snug these down. We can torque these to 80 foot-pounds in a star pattern.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.